cut that up. So, hey, Defender. Good. Oh, one second. Let me just turn you on. Good
Uh,
to have you.
hello, hello. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. I just I talked a bit about it yesterday, but I had some more time for it to kind of sink in, so I figured I would
Right, right, right.
talk about it a bit more. So this is my friend Defender. I watched most of um, uh, Attack on Titan with him. I think except for maybe
We
this
watched
final episode.
basically everything except for the last thing. The last couple episodes are special,
Yeah,
whatever you
we'll
want to call it.
watch it together when the dub comes out. Maybe.
Right.
I wouldn't mind rewatching this. So it is the series finale. I were you expecting them to do more stuff, like more of a anime original ending than what they wound up doing?
Oh boy. No, actually, I mean, I have been keeping up with I don't know what you would want to call it, the community that's around this whole anime original ending thing.
Yep.
I never expected them to uh do anything substantially different from what the manga did. However, obviously, I was following the news of Attack on Titan, and before this came out, there was a uh, statement released by Isayama saying that there's going to be a new script. So, in that sense, because when you hear new script, or I was thinking there were going to be substantial additions, not changes, but additions
Didn't
to
the
what
voice
was.
actor leak something, like, and said that there was going to be?
Not sure. I don't. They did, I wasn't aware of that. But to answer your question, I thought there was going to be more changes. I mean, not changes. I guess changes is not the right additions than there actually were. Ultimately, the additions amounted to like more lines of dialogue, and I think
Did
some
they
lines of dialogue.
clarify some things a little bit? I think.
Um, clarify. I guess so. I don't know. From
Because like
from
from my understanding is they made, like, was it clear in the actually
Fritz
it's good
Fritz
that you
should.
actually it's good that you're here because we watched Code Geass. That
Yeah.
he was doing some sort of zero requiem thing in the manga, or was it kind of ambiguous? Because in this one he pretty explicitly stated that he wanted his friends to kill him so they could be the heroes who saved the world.
Basically, everyone compares Eren's plan basically to what Lush did in Code Geass. Um,
But was that
for
like clear
better
in the
for better or
manga,
for
or is
worse.
that some dialogue they clarified?
No, that's basically the ending in both the manga and the
Okay.
anime. The anime, I mean, for those who only saw the anime, the manga is basically what the anime, except for the anime had a couple more lines of dialogue, specifically in the conversation Eren and Armin had at the very end. And there were some lines of like, for instance, I know that the slave when Eren says that he's a slave to freedom, that was an anime only line,
Hmm.
basically.
So do you think that Eren threw the last fight? Like he didn't try to kill them as hard as he could have?
Okay, from my understanding, this is the understanding that I have. And this is me just trying to describe the intentions of the author. Aaron did throw the last fight because that was his plan. Ultimately, his plan ultimately was to basically do a 180% rumbling. Uh, he wanted to make his friends heroes, so he basically turned himself into the ultimate villain, the ultimate monster of the world, so that all the hatred could go on him, and then his friends could then slay him, kill him, so that they get the credit. So that way, it could get their, I guess it could resolve the conflict at least temporarily, or ensure some sort of peace. Now, whether or not this plan makes sense or whether it was in line with everything is another question. But yes, ultimately,
One of the
that's.
issues with just the later half of Attack on Titan is,
Mhm.
well, I think it does get progressively better. it gets really confusing when we start getting into the past and like the time travel and Aaron getting like memories from the past, present, and future and stuff like that. Like I found that that whole thing was kind of the most confusing part for me of the finale.
Um, yeah, Attack on Titan can get very convoluted in when it comes to the whole memories, and because the memories are traveling through time, and then there's this quasi time travel. This is probably the weakest aspect of Attack on Titan because in my opinion, when it goes into the memories and how like this affects throughout time, okay, maybe it's interesting in some superficial sense, but I think Attack on Titan has its strongest suits, its strongest, uh, its biggest strength is not that. It's mostly about its commentary on the human condition, about conflict, about this world, about
I
how
mean, does it add anything?
it adds a little bit, it adds a bit. I guess you could add. I guess it adds like a spicy, like a zest of fantasy that ups the, human condition, humans fighting, and Eren is this guy who is a, I guess, has these extra supernatural powers basically. Um,
I think they were
However, I
also
ultimately though, I think that that aspect is a huge letdown because in the very end, it tries. I almost feel like, and it's only been what? It's only been like a day since I've seen this, so I probably I almost think that I have to let that I have to think about this more. But there was a line in the end where Aaron basically says his mind was screwed up because past, present, and future were all happening at the same time, or basically time became a useless concept because it really wasn't applying to him in the normal sense. And he says that his mind was messed up because of this. I don't really like this whole concept. I
also he
don't
had
like
three titans in his head.
yeah,
I
the
can
whole
accept that that screwed him up is having three separate titans in his head.
I don't like the idea of agency being my problem with it is not the whole like, oh, maybe it'll make more sense if it was this reason or that reason. My problem in a fundamental way is that agency is being stripped away from Eren. One of the things that I think makes Eren a very compelling character is that he puts on so much burden upon himself. And I think while the ending still tries to do that, the line that where he says my head is screwed up and things are determined kind of takes away from it. It
So
takes away from that. Ultimately, for whatever Aaron did, I want the agency to be on him. I always thought of Aaron as a very twisted messianic figure almost, where he's basically creating this world and he's taking upon, like, he is single-handedly killing all of these people and it's all on his head. It is literally all upon his head. All the sins and everything is upon his shoulders, and he's going to take those sins or whatever to his own grave, but it won't be on everyone else. It will be on him specifically, right? So I find him to be a very, like I said, a twisted messianic figure, and and I want that agency of that decision to be solely on him. I don't want it to be like, okay, of these Titan powers or time travel where he he had his, like, he wasn't thinking straight because of the time travel. I don't like that. I want it to be solely his decision, his agency, and while I think that's what the ending wanted to do, it also wanted to have it. It's like, I think Isayama, the author, wanted to have it both ways, where he wants Aaron to have this choice, but he also wants it. Oh well, he tried. There was another line in the ending where he said, "Oh, I tried over and over again, and I couldn't find another solution besides this one. My mind was messed up. I'm just an idiot." I don't like these additions. I don't like the idea of Aaron just being some idiot who had like taken away agency because of this, like, these supernatural powers. Like, no, it's
um
very understandable what Aaron did, because the things motivating Aaron ultimately were things that I think most people can relate to, and that's what
friends,
makes
his
him a compelling
people,
character. Yeah,
freedom.
that's what makes him a compelling character to begin with.
Uh, I think I was talking to you a bit about this earlier, but I kind of would have liked so I would have liked it just to get firstly the whole like trap by knowing the future thing is a thing from Dune. I'm not sure if it's a specific reference for this, but the main character of Dune in its sequel has prescience that can see the future, but the more he looks into the future, the more trapped by it he becomes, and it restricts his options. But I don't. Is fate and free will really that big a theme in Attack on Titan?
It's hard to say. I almost want to say what you just described about how knowing the future traps you.
Mm.
I almost want to say that I think that did happen to Aaron.
No, I
Um,
think it pretty much exactly is what happened.
yeah,
Is
I
he
think
could
that's
see the
probably what.
future and he wasn't able to.
Yes,
He got
but,
trapped by it.
there's just certain things that to me I'd have to still think through because be- when Aaron says stuff in the end where he says because he's not bound by time, he said over and over again, I tried different things and they all failed. That implies that Eren wanted to do different. Even with all this power, he's literally the most powerful being in the Attack on Titan universe, and he still was not able to prevent these events. Probably because in the Attack on Titan universe, these events were determined, like the ending says. The ending says these events were determined. So
I
ultimately,
like.
well,
Oh, sorry. Go on.
this is maybe a problem. I don't know, but ultimately, did Aaron want these things because they like okay, so he wanted them and they were determined, or did was he just forced to go along with it? He was he just along for the ride, and all the Titan powers did really was making him aware that he was along on this ride because he was able to see the future. He was able to see, oh well, look, nothing really matters. I'm just
Well, it
along on
was
this ride.
clear like that he had kind of realized it was necessary in season four. Like we had that flashback where they go to try to get the like pro Eldian people to like be on their side, and you just see Aaron like look defeated, like he knew it was not going to work, but he really wishes that there was some other way. I would have just preferred if he had just said, I couldn't think of any other way to deal with this, so I made a decision. I don't know if it was, who can say if it was the right decision or not, but I made the choice so other people wouldn't have
Yeah,
to.
yeah. One of the things that I wish that the series would have tackled is that exactly because that's something Levi says earlier on in the series where Levi literally says he doesn't know what the right or wrong thing to do in a given moment and like these violent sporadic battles, he doesn't know what the right or wrong thing to do. All he knows is what will keep him alive, basically. And I mean, to me, that sentiment is kind of one of the operating principles that Aaron operates on,
Hmm.
basically. If the way I examine the series is Aaron basically was doing things in order to ensure the his own, I guess, safety and the safety of his friends in the island. Yeah, he fully acknowledges that if the Eldians, like he even says it, if the Eldians were all gone, the world that would probably result in a much more peaceful, a lot less pain in the world. It would resolve this conflict. But he says he can't accept a solution like that,
But no, I
which
just
which is
because
understandable.
I don't think it was necessary to like throw in all the stuff about time travel, because I mean the so just
Yes,
you
yeah,
could just say like it was an impossible decision, but I made it because I couldn't see an alternative, and I didn't want my friends to bear the burden of destroying the world. I wanted to bear it by myself. I don't really get what
yeah.
was wrong with that and why we had to bring all this other nonsense in.
I think yeah. Ultimately, I think what the time travel thing, I was it ultimately a detriment to the narrative because it goes away. Like I said, what Attack on Titan, what makes it compelling is about the human condition. It's about the nature of human conflict. And I mean, Attack on Titan, regardless, I mean, whatever you think about the ending, it did it better than I think almost any anime, in my opinion, and a lot of media in general. To be frank, and like you said, you don't when you're doing it that good on that high a level, you don't need this other time shenanigans to like spice up the story. And if anything, it'll just detract and maybe even uh, degrade the story, which I think ultimately, in the very final moments, it did.
Because
Which
I think it was clear like that Eren had tried a bunch of different things and that he was
yes,
trying to avoid it, but like everything failed. His attempt at like diplomacy, their attempt at diplomacy failed. His attempt to win conventionally failed, and he just didn't see any other options. I
well,
think there's also
something a lot of people don't even bring up is that Aaron was the one who suggested not doing the rumbling. He was the very first person not to suggest not doing it in the first place.
mm,
So uh, there's a lot of I think there's a lot of mischaracterization of Aaron's character and Attack on Titan in general, and I guess part of that blame could be on the square shoulders of the author himself because of the way the ending is written, which I think confuses a lot of people, makes a little of this
I
kind of
just feel like Eren doesn't act like Eren in the finale.
yeah, basically.
Um, but like once again, he just be like he could have just said to Armin like ultimately, um, you I love my friends and your lives are worth more than mine, or something like that. It's just I feel like they just threw a whole bunch of like unnecessary stuff
Aaron
in
literally thinks
with.
that. Aaron literally thinks that his life is worth less than everyone else's lives. He literally says that if all in season 3 at the very end, when right, you know when they're doing the ceremony,
Mhm.
when Historia is rewarding them with medals, Aaron literally says in that ceremony that if all he could do was just sacrifice his life, his own life only to save everyone else, he would do it. So, um, that's the kind of character we're dealing with, which is, people like to portray Aaron in a certain way, but then, in my opinion, lines like that, him suggesting not to do the rumbling, him being disappointed when peace negotiations break down. I mean, these things just don't make sense if Aaron is a guy who just wants to kill
Yeah,
his
because
enemies.
wasn't that some fan theory that like Eren's just a psychopath who likes to kill people?
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of characterizations of Aaron where all he wanted to do was just kill his enemies, and that's all he cared about. But if that's literally the interpretation that you're going with, then a lot of his actions don't make sense. At one point in the series, he literally there's another point in the series where in when in the cave with Historia, this was part back in season 3. He's literally offering himself up to Historia for her to eat him because he thinks that'll be good for everybody else. So clearly, there are principles within Eren that are greater than just killing his enemies, because he's willing to forgo his own life for the good of everybody else around him. And if all he wanted to do was kill his enemies, then he wouldn't be doing these things. So that's why and ultimately that just makes him a more compelling character. To say that all he wanted to do was just be a psychopath and kill everybody because they're his enemies, and he just wanted to do this, it flattens his character, and I think it removes a lot. It makes him a lot less relatable character because normal. I almost want to say normal people just don't want to kill people for no reason.
I mean, has Eren ever
Murder exists in
expressed
this world.
sadism really,
Yeah, yeah.
other than against Titans? I mean, he took pleasure in killing Titans, but I
Yes,
don't
he did.
think. Sorry.
Sorry, continue.
No, he took pleasure in killing Titans, but I don't think that Eren ever took pleasure in killing people. I can't really recall an example of that. Maybe I'm missing something.
No, I think you're correct on that. He did take pleasure in killing Titans. But the thing is, once Eren finds out the truth, he reforms that idea. People forget that. Remember when he
Mhm.
calls that Titan a patriot?
Okay, so somebody made a very good point in the chat. Reiner
Mhm.
begs Eren to kill him, and Eren says he doesn't want to because he understands why he did what he did. If Eren is just a psychopath, why didn't he eat Reiner?
Good point.
I think that's a very good point. Um, I mean, there's a lot of like things that could have been done. I will say this about the finale. If nothing else, it is spectacular to watch. Like it is,
Oh yeah,
it's really awesome.
Mappa, the studio that animated it, got a lot of criticism over. Um, I don't know if you guys even care about this, but Mappa was the studio that took over Attack on Titan after season three, which was animated by Wit Studio. Wit Studio did a phenomenal job animating the first three seasons, so they had a huge mantle to take up after taking it from Wit. They started off pretty rocky, but I think they did a pretty good job, especially by the final season, part two. I think they were really hitting their own, and by the end, like these two specials, especially the last one, I think they were doing a phenomenal job in terms of its animation. I know that, I mean, some people will still prefer Wit, and that's fine, but I think they did a phenomenal job with just the presentation and animation. Uh, and I think that sometimes Mappa can be over criticized.
So I will say the whole because I was thinking about it since my last video. The whole thing where Aaron's like lying in the water is
Oh yeah.
just, it just feels very anti Aaron. Him crying about how he wants to live, like I kind of get that because Aaron has always had a very strong desire, but I do kind of to a certain extent view Aaron at this point like part of him is probably relieved that he's gonna die and he doesn't have to keep going forward with like all this insane shit and having to kill people. It's just the his breakdown there is just kind of weird to me. Um,
Yeah. I don't know what to say about that. It's always been a scene that bothered me ever since I knew about it, and I still feel the same way. Uh, Watching it again, people defend it by saying Aaron has cried before, but the thing is that what was he crying about in those previous moments? And it wasn't because he was whining about Mikasa or something like that. Uh, in the previous moments, like everyone will try to bring up when he was in the cave with Historia, he broke down there. Okay, sure, but that in that moment, uh, he was willing to offer himself up because he thought it would benefit everybody else. He wasn't being selfish. He wasn't being like, I want to make it.
like I could see Aaron
I
crying like from the weight of all the people that he's killed.
Or that, honestly, you know what? If he was crying basically because of the weight that it was
The
crushing him,
guilt of
that's
having
fine.
killed so
Like
many people.
literally, I mean, he literally killed like what billions of people right then and there, and
Yeah.
he did it because I mean, he did it because I guess in his own way, in the context of the story, he had to, and he took it all upon himself, and he knew he was going to suffer. Uh, Maybe forever for that. I mean, I do like the line. Okay, I will say this: as much as I criticize the conversation between Armin and Aaron, I do like the line where Armin tells Aaron that don't worry, Aaron, we'll see each other again. We'll both be going to hell. It's so
I thought that was kind of sweet in a
I don't know.
funny way.
I don't know. Did you like that or no?
Yeah,
I
I
got
did like how I think that's something that changed that Armin was like took a little bit of responsibility. He's like Aaron, this isn't
Well, I
just
mean,
you.
everyone forgets. I mean, even though Armin seems like, I mean, I guess he's kind of a nice guy, but I mean, he has the blood of innocence on his hands too. Just maybe not to the same degree Aaron does, but I mean, he's killed children and innocents and just civilians and people, and technically he had a hand in Aaron achieving the rumbling because remember, Aaron, Mikasa, and John and the whole crew uh, temporarily sided with Eren back in when they were in Paradise. So you could even say that some of the blood of the rumbling is on Armin's hands. So I mean, yeah, yeah. So I mean, I like the line of him acknowledging that all that, and it's the story's not forgetting that basically Armin's killed all these people too.
Well, I mean, they all have. I think Eren was ultimately trying to
Yeah.
spare them as much as possible, but
No, that's what I
yeah,
like. That's what I like about Aaron is that he literally was trying to shoulder like all of it on himself. He was trying to shoulder all the sins on himself and get and so that all the people on Parody and his friends can live
I, I
without it, basically, and
like
he'll just shoulder it all
I was
himself.
okay. Like it just had a breakdown. It's like I just can't shoulder all the sin anymore.
Yeah.
Like I just can't live with it anymore. Like that, I think would have been fine because that's consistent with Aaron's character. But okay, so let's get into Aaron going into simp mode because that was fucking weird.
God.
So, we'll give our but just because we're talking about this privately, but just for the sake of this stream, I always kind of like the idea of Aaron's feelings towards Mikasa being kind of ambiguous. That is, we aren't really sure if he's romantically attracted to her or if he just views her as his sister or something. Um, I thought it was kind of an interesting aspect of the show, and part of me kind of wishes they just kept it like that. Like I had thought maybe he could say to Armin, or when he's talking to Armin, he just goes Mikasa maybe in a better world, or something like that.
Mhm.
I mean,
Well,
what do you think?
uh, I definitely share your opinion on that, although I'm not completely or against the idea that he was in love with her the whole time.
No, it just wasn't very well done. I guess it's more my issue.
Here's the thing. Because this plot thread was so integral to the ending, I think it needed to be set up more. It needed to have it need it the way it is now and the way it is written, it seems like it almost comes out of nowhere, and its significance is like amped up to a degree that I just don't think justifies it being that prominent in
Especially
the
was
ending.
that is what makes Aaron like have his
Yeah,
breakdown
like,
that he doesn't get his
exactly.
waifu. Like it's nothing about Aaron's personality. I could see him crying because he feels he failed Mikasa, or he couldn't be like the man she thought he was, or something like that. It just seems really weird. Um,
No, I agree. Like I said, if I w- I am I would be fine if Aaron did love her or something, and if this plot point was going to play this much importance, then I definitely think that there needed to be much more development between Aaron and Mikasa than we got in the actual series, because the way it is now, it is extremely one-sided. I would say pretty much entirely. Like the
has Aaron
romance,
ever expressed any kind of interest in her?
I would argue no, not romantically. And see, this is the problem in my opinion. In my opinion, I mean, I almost don't want to say. I mean, I think it is the. I don't know. I think it just is the problem. The fact that there. I mean, you talk about an Aaron Mikasa romance. It doesn't even exist because the whole series, I would say, is one sided. It's Mikasa toward Aaron, and Aaron never really reciprocated. There were maybe hints when Aaron asked Mikasa what I am to you, and but even there it's left very ambiguous, and there was a lot going on in the story with especially with Aaron. I would like you could always interpret Aaron asking her that question because he's testing his memories. Remember, once he kissed Historia's hand, he had seen a lot of memories from the future, so he had known a lot of events were going to happen before they did. So when he asked Mikasa that question, what am I to you, the way I interpreted it was that he's testing his memories, that he knows what she's going to say, and he's disappointed that she says what he already knows the answer, because it means that history's not changing, like this stuff's not changing. So he has to keep moving forward, as he always says.
It's weird
So
that like he compromises that at the end. He's like, I don't want Mikasa to move forward. I want her to like continue to simp for me for the next decade. It feels very un-Aaronish. Um
yeah, I'd agree. I
uh
mean, look, I'm not I kind of I mean to throw a little I mean I kind of felt bad for Mikasa, but because while I was watching the series, I always kind of felt bad for him just because of how much Eren didn't care. you know, like Mikasa would be so infatuated with him, and Eren just would pretty much brush her off, like every time, basically.
He was just like
Every
be gone
single time.
thought.
Well, not in that sense, but in
No,
just
I
a
know, I
very
know.
yeah,
Mikasa's a nice girl. I'm just
yeah. I mean, I don't really. I mean, a lot of people hate Mikasa as a character because of this, and well, I definitely think she wasn't handled ideally. I mean, I still like the character. I still think I just think like just like Aaron, I don't think she was handled ideally either. In this ending, I kind of don't like the fact that she's like obsessed with him even after death and even through like what's happened and transpired.
I actually do, because didn't the manga imply that her and Jean got together?
Well, that's what a lot of people theorize because I mean, okay, in the manga, there is a panel in which we see Mikasa with her husband, and we only see them from the back. So we don't ever see them face forward, so we can't really be sure. But the man looked like Jean, right? So everyone assumed it's Jean.
Well, that
Um,
also just makes sense with everything else in the story.
right, it does make sense. So, I mean, people saying the anime was different. The thing is, the way the anime framed that when Mikasa visited the grave with her husband, it was further away, so we couldn't really see even the back of Mikasa's husband. So for all we know, it still could be Jean in the anime. We just don't know. I mean, ultimately, this is a theory. It's not even confirmed. We don't know for sure who Mikasa ended up
I
being
think I do actually like that at the end. Um, I
because
think
Jean was
that's
simp because Jean simped for her the whole
yeah
series.
okay. Like to be fair, like you're less of a simp if you're simping for someone like Mikasa than if you're simping for someone like Chizuru. Uh, because Mikasa is like a 5'9" Eurasian goddess with an 8 pack. So like I can't really. He at least picked uh, a good girl to like go after. But I don't know. I just think as a satisfactory conclusion to John's character arc, and like he's not being mocked by Eren anymore. Um,
Getting mocked by Eren the whole series.
because he would be the alpha male in like any other group, but Eren is Eren. So, okay, so let's
Wait, hold on. What about the cabin scene? Don't you have thoughts on that?
yeah, we'll get to that one. I just wanted to talk about Historia for a minute. So I do think that there is at least some evidence that Historia is the love of Eren's life, and that she was the person that he loved romantically, and he only ever saw Mikasa as like a friend or sister. Now it was kind of subtle, but
Look, yeah.
there is substantial evidence. There is evidence
As
for it.
much look, I'm just gonna say this. As much as this makes sense, I'm completely with you. In fact, not this makes so much sense. It's crazy. Not only does it make sense on a just the chemistry between the characters, it makes sense thematically. Back in what was it? Season three, Historia says that she will side with Eren against all of humanity. That's what she said in season three. Okay, they both have fathers. They both have strained relationships with their fathers, where their fathers are trying to impose uh, I guess their sins, their ways on them, and they have to deal with that. So thematically, character wise, plot wise, Aaron revealed the his plan to Historia. He didn't reveal it to anyone else besides Flock and Historia. As much as this makes sense, unfortunately, I don't think that this happened. Even though it makes way more sense than some of the stuff that actually did happen. I would
Yeah, like as I said, if I was going to be writing the ending, I would have had Aaron just say like, "Armin, promise me you'll take care of Historia and her child," just kind of out of nowhere, like just as a one off. and not really
Yeah.
elaborate on
Well,
it.
I mean,
Just
the thing is, Historia on like she ended her character arc really ended on a very disappointing note because the last thing that happened with her was who was the father of her child, and there was this whole thing about her going up, shacking up with the farmer, and apparently that's all true. I mean, we see her and the farmer at the very end. We see that the baby's eyes were brown and not green. So you know, if they wanted to at least nod in that direction, I think they would have made the child's eyes green. I think they would have done that if that
or
was the
just not shown
intention.
the child's eyes.
Or not show, but but if they really wanted to give it in that direction, they would have given the child's eyes green. Like even with everything else being the same, they would have done that just to give that nod, but they didn't. So as much as this makes sense, I still argue that this makes much more sense. It makes much more sense than Eren loving Mikasa. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, and it makes things a little weird. Like, why is Historia asking Eren if to have a child? I mean, come on. Like to me, that was one of the weird. Like,
No, Aaron
it's a
asked
very
her.
weird scene, huh?
Aaron asked her, didn't he?
No, she asked him.
Oh, okay.
No, 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 no. She asked him, and I guess that's just a normal thing that men and women just talk about all the time, right?
Would you like to
That are not
impregnate
that
me?
are not in a relationship at all or something,
Yeah,
you
would
know?
you like to impregnate me? That's just what they like. They just go up and ask to people.
Yeah, that's just normal. That's just what happens normally.
Also,
So
the
I mean, that's
farmer, I didn't think he actually existed because it seemed like the biggest, like,
yeah.
red
It seemed
herring.
like a fake news story, didn't it?
Yeah, it sounded like a fake news story. Um, I
Not
also,
not only that, but apparently the farmer threw rocks at her as when she was like when they were both
what a king.
children.
What a Sigma move.
I know.
Um, but it's okay. So someone said Reiner is the father of the child. Well, maybe it makes as much sense as anything that
You know,
happened
I
at
mean,
the end of the
I
show.
hope he is.
Um, but actually, I think Reiner is one of my favorite characters because I went from like hating him to really like feeling bad for him. Uh, because he is in like an impossible situation. He is very much like Aaron's counterpart. Like, I think he's a good foil to Aaron, um, in that they both are kind of in similar situations, having to be the guy to make the rough decisions for their people.
Yeah, I agree. This show in general, I think, just has very good character. I mean, I can't really name a bad character, honestly, in the show. I mean, people will say maybe Armin was a bit of a letdown in the final parts or toward the end. And while I'll agree, I still think Armin was a phenomenal character when you take into like everything into account, the whole show
Mm-hmm.
into account. I don't really I can't think of a character that really just was never good in the show.
Who didn't
I
have
think
at least
even
someone.
Gabby, like Gabby's probably one of the most hated characters in the whole show, and I never really hated her. I still, I mean, I thought the way she was written, the way she felt, the way her actions, they all made sense. The only thing I disliked about Gabby is the fact that she never missed. She literally never missed. Every time she shot, she fucking killed something. That's the only thing I disliked about Gabby is that she never
Um,
missed.
she was like kind of infuriating, but I think she made a lot of sense in terms of the story, and I think her inclusion was really helpful. Um, so I did like that aspect of it. Okay, so what was Historia choosing Mikasa? No, Ymir choosing Mikasa. Like, what the fuck was that? I couldn't follow that
Oh
at all.
god. Oh
Did that
god.
happen in the manga?
Yes, yes, it did.
But what does it mean?
Okay. This is okay. This is probably one of the weakest parts. Okay, I'm gonna try to explain it to the best of my ability, and I hope I don't butcher this because honestly, I just think this is bad regardless. Anyway, so Ymir apparently is enslaved to the king's will. I mean, that's
Yeah.
obvious.
Hmm.
That's why she was doing all. That's why she was in Path creating the Titans. So why was she enslaved to the will? Well, apparently, at least the way the ending explains it, it she is enslaved because she think there's two things. Okay, okay, I have to back up. There's two things you have to understand about Ymir. There's two things she desires. She desires freedom and she desires love. Okay.
Hmm.
This is both shown when she frees the pigs and when she longs for to be loved when she is looking at the couple.
Hmm.
So these are the two things that she wants. So the reason why she's enslaved to King Fritz is because uh, she's in love with him,
In a really
basically.
fucked up way. Yeah.
Yeah, in a really messed up way. However, in the end, she realizes. I think what it is, and I think the reason she needed to see Mikasa for some reason kill Eren is because she realizes that it was her children that she loves and not the king. This is, I mean, it almost is
How?
cringeworthy to say. I know exactly. I'm just trying to explain it.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I just don't get how those two things are
So
related.
it's she realizes it's her children that she loves and not the king, and the reason why she needed to see Mikasa for some reason kill Eren is because somehow Eren parallels King Fritz. How
How?
I have no idea. Maybe because Eren is a tyrant, but honestly, when this is probably the weakest, even weaker than the time, like this is probably even weaker than the time
But
travel. Now I
Eren
think
like
about it.
has absolutely nothing in common with
Yeah,
King
because
Fritz.
the, to me, I don't see how Eren parallels King Fritz at all. And the fact that Ymir needed to see Mikasa kill Eren also just is a very weak reason for why she needed to be set free because
Couldn't like Eren have?
it also doesn't make sense. Hold on, it also doesn't make sense because to me this is also just a blatant plot hole because if she is enslaved to the king's will, then she would have gone with Zeke. However, uh, she went with Eren. So in that episode, when Eren and Zeke are both in paths and they're trying to tell Ymir what to do, Eren convinces her, "Hey, you're free. Hey, this is your choice. You don't have to listen to him. You can choose." And she chose Eren, right? So the fact that she chose Eren means that she should have been free in that moment, right? Because if she wasn't free to choose, then she would have been forced to go with Zeke. However, to me, this is just a blatant plot hole in my opinion because apparently she wasn't free. That didn't free her somehow. So somehow she was still enslaved even though she chose Eren, and she needed to see Mikasa kill Eren in order to be reset free, which I don't know seems
I don't.
convoluted
I
and
had just thought
doesn't make
Eren would
sense.
say to her like, "It's time to let go."
Arctic warfare, you're completely right. Eren is a Giga Chad even after this terrible, even after all this very flawed ending.
No,
Sorry,
like
go on, Mark.
if he had just told Ymir to let it go and to like just to leave and to take the power of the Titans with her, um, so that she could finally rest or something like that. I don't really get how Mikasa.
Here's the part where the Historia Aaron pairing just makes too much sense. There's a fan theory that with Aaron and Historia having a child, the part of Aaron's plan to set Ymir free from paths was for her to be reincarnated as Historia's
Does
child.
that happen?
And no, of course this didn't happen, but this makes more sense than what actually did happen. And the reason why this makes sense is because if Historia has a daughter, who do you think? What name do you think she's going to name that child? If you
Ymir.
really think of exactly, and it would be the Ymir from Paths because Eren would set her free, and then she would be reincarnated as Eren's daughter, Eren and Historia's daughter. I'm just saying this is a fan theory that to me makes more sense than
Yeah, but
her
like
somehow.
that actually thematically makes sense and resolves
Yeah,
like.
because it not only does it tie. I mean, even though I really dislike the freckled Ymir for obvious. I mean, we both did for
Yeah.
obvious reasons. I mean, that still makes a lot of sense because obviously Historia and freckled Ymir had a very close relationship, and it
Mhm.
was one of the few people your Historia even had, like maybe it was one of the people that Historia even had a relationship with to begin with. So she's still very fond of Ymir. So obviously she would. It's very plausible that she would name her daughter after Ymir, and the Ymir would be the founder.
Uh-huh.
So there you go. That it makes way too much sense.
So
Even
sorry,
just
why did the
character
power
wise,
of the Titans disappear?
because the worm thing, you know, that worm thing that they were
Yeah.
fighting, killed. If from my understanding,
What was the worm thing?
it was never really fully explained, was it?
It
Although,
just it
did it really need to be? I don't know.
it
Did it?
just it just didn't make a lot of. I had just thought that like Eren convinced Ymir to take the power of the Titans with her when he died. That's what I thought had happened. It just seems like there's some elements here that are like unresolved and don't have the thing that's baffling though is there was no need to insert these things in. Like, did we need to
Yeah.
have the giant worm thing? Like, was that did that help the story?
Well, I don't. I mean, with all the other flaws, I think the giant worm thing is like really down on the totem pole of
No, but
things
I
that
just
that were.
mean no, but I'm just saying it's part of the general trend of just inserting unnecessary things to explain stuff.
Mhm.
Um, when there was okay in universe stuff um, to begin with. But okay, so what did you think of the cabin scene?
I didn't hate it, honestly. I'll be honest. Even though, even despite everything I've said, I don't know what to say. I didn't hate it. I thought it
No, I didn't hate it. I
was.
just thought it was cringe, kind of cringe.
Can you explain that? I mean, I,
It just
I
once
don't know.
again seems very like weird for
Do
Aaron
you
to
think
just.
do you think it was too indulgent in like fan service or something? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I kind of do. Um,
Hmm.
I kind of think it was. Like it wasn't a terrible scene. It doesn't irritate me. It just felt like it just feels kind of out of place with everything else going on. That they're just having this like moment that doesn't really have any context in the within the rest of the series. It just felt like it was giving Eren Mikasa shippers like what they always wanted, pretty much.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Like
I'm trying
I
to think.
didn't hate it, like, but it just seemed a little out of place.
Yeah. Uh, no, when I think
I
about it,
do
was that.
appreciate. I will say one thing. I
Sorry.
appreciate that Aaron referenced that he only had 4 years left.
Hmm.
Because I think that's made
Well, I mean,
probably.
I guess I do appreciate that maybe it shows a. I think about it almost as a what if scenario that even
Yeah.
in a scenario in which Aaron and Mikasa run away together, it's still a tragic. Like first of all, they say that first of all, like he says that Marley's coming in to basically genocide the island anyway.
Mhm.
So I mean, he shirks that responsibility, right? The responsibility of trying to protect everyone. Like he shirks that, everyone's gonna get screwed in the end, and and it's just all for Mikasa, just all so they can, I guess, live together for 4 years, and then
Does
he
it
goes
remind
away
you
to
of
the.
that one special? Like the opposite of that one special? Where Mikasa tries to change the future.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. You and me think alike. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. In the one of the one of the OVAs, Lost Girls, there's a what if scenario in which Mikasa basically has, I guess, time powers, where if she doesn't like something, she can always reset to a previous time, and in that time, because she prevents her parents from dying. But anyway, the reason that special is interesting is because it still shows the characters who are still the same but in a different situation. And even in that special, Eren dies, just like because of his
Yeah,
nature.
everyone is a disaster. Every like ending
Yeah,
is a disaster.
yeah. Like even in and by the way, in that ending, it's very interesting that he dies saving Argent because remember in because Mikasa wasn't aware of the Titan powers in that special. The only reason Eren didn't die in the main series was because he had Titan powers. Because remember in episode 5 when they went into battle for the very first time against the Titans, what was one of the first things that Eren did? He saves Armin from being killed from a Titan, and then he gets eaten himself. And the only reason he survives that is because he was a Titan. He was a Titan shifter
Right.
the entire time. So um yeah, uh which, by the way, I mean that's exactly what a psychopath would do, right? He just like would throw away his own life. He wants to kill his enemies so bad. That's why he throws away his own life to save his friend. And there you go.
Mm-hmm. But no, I think on the whole, like it's rough because there's a lot of good aspects and a lot of bad aspects.
I
Do
mean,
you
we've been
think
criticizing, but I want to okay, but I want to talk about some things I liked. I liked how I mean, I already talked about I think the animation was pretty done pretty well. However, even in the very end, what do you think? Okay, this is something this is what I have to say. What do you think about the ending where it's like the Jaegerists basically just established the government? Historia base apparently makes a speech where she's parroting a lot of Eren's philosophy. Uh, Basically, I guess she's gonna rule like Eren. I don't know. What do you make of that?
it was just kind
Like,
of weird?
you found it weird?
It just was kind of rant. Like it just kind of like I feel like everything with Historia like needed more time.
Well, absolutely.
Like that she should have had a lot more screen time in season 4. Because she basically had no screen time after she became queen. Um, but she's still an important underlying character.
Well, yeah. I mean, she would have been more important. She would have been more important if she actually was if she was involved with Eren a little bit more, but that didn't happen, unfortunately.
Um,
But I don't know. Like, what I'm saying is okay. But here's the thing. What I'm saying though is why end it like that? I mean, if the point, I mean, what do you think the point of this story is? If like the ending of the story, the island is taken over by this Jaegerist group, and the queen herself
but the
is.
cycle of hatred just never ends.
You think that's what it is? You think
I,
that's the point?
I think so.
Okay, but if that's true, then how come like Armin, John, and the rest aren't really parroting that? I guess
Uh,
you know.
I don't know. It just seems kind of it is just weird. Um, do you
Well,
think
I'm not
that
gonna lie. I do find I guess in some for almost any other story it kind of would be weird for the Jaegers to basically just completely win, but for Attack on Titan, it just feels right
they just needed
that I mean
Flock to survive and then
uh,
become Shogun?
they just flock to
Just
well,
become
that's another thing too. Flock basically gets vindicated in the end, like he was right the entire time, which is a lot of people get upset about Paradise getting nuked and wiped out, but that basically just vindicates Flock's words. I mean, Flock did say that if we don't do this, Paradise will swim in a sea of blood. And
Well, we also don't know necessarily like what like if it could have also been a civil war or something.
you're correct on that. We don't know exactly the context. However,
In the
something.
anime, I think it's more ambiguous. I think in the manga, because much less time passes, it's pretty
Oh yeah,
obvious.
okay. The anime definitely did extend the time period. However, um, I would still say that it like it's most likely not a civil war because if you look at even in the anime, if you look at the time lapse, it's several conflicts. It's not just one. It's
Right.
several conflicts that then culminates in them getting nuked to death, basically.
Uh
So
huh.
um, so I would imagine that those several conflicts is the rest of the world trying to retaliate, and then they finally succeed in the end.
Do you think
Um,
the very last scene, the implication is that Uh, that they're going to be the new founding titan.
Yes. Most likely. I think what I mean basically if everyone remembers, that tree is the same, or it appears to be the same tree that Ymir fell into. Remember that tree that Ymir fell into in that flashback episode?
Yeah.
That tree in the end that appears before the boy is basically the same tree Ymir fell into. So the implication is that yeah, the cycle will repeat again. That most likely means Titans might come back, but I'm not sure about that because um, there might be something I'm missing there where because of the way Ymir fell in, maybe um, if I'm remembering this correctly, the reason why Ymir uh, turned into a Titan when she made connections to that worm thing is because that's something she wished for, or something that she, I don't know, because of the condition she was in, basically. So maybe when that boy comes into contact with that worm thing, something else will happen. Maybe it won't be that he'll turn into a Titan. Maybe it'll be something else. But I don't know. I still, in some way, the cycle will continue. Basically, I hope that made sense. I hope I'm explaining this all in a coherent fashion.
Hmm. You know, it's something I've always wondered.
Hmm.
Where did the wall titans come from?
Oh, don't you remember that? That's something that King Fritz made himself.
Yeah, so he literally turned like hundreds of thousands of people into.
I don't remember if he turned people into them, but I do remember the series saying he's the one who made them.
Yeah, but like I think I don't think you can just make titans out of thin air. So he must have like taken hundreds of thousands of his subjects and like
Yeah,
forcibly converted them into colossal titans and put them in the wall.
sounds like something he might do. It sounds like something he would do, honestly. Okay, speaking of King Fritz, something I love about Attack on Titan is that King Fritz is how it kind of shits on pacifism. It
Uh-huh.
completely it shits on it. This is completely offset on the ending, but the whole reason the conflicts later on in the series even happen is because Well, I mean, there's many reasons, but one of the reasons is because King Fritz was a insane pacifist. Not
Uh-huh.
that pacifism is insane, but the variety in the variety that King Fritz was, where he was basically suicidal, basically caused conflict because the whole world knew, or at least Marley knew, and I get it, it wasn't the world; it was just Marley. Marley knew that the Eldians were not going to retaliate. Remember?
Right.
So when someone and I mean, what do you think is going to happen in the world if they know that you're never going to retaliate, and you're just free game, you're just free pickings for everybody, you know, which then caused Marley to go into paradise to get the founder. They break down the walls, which causes everything.
What do you think their plan was to use it? Did they think that just by having Zeke they could use the founding titan? Or do they just not understand how it works at all?
Why Marley wanted the founding
Yeah.
titan? The reason why Marley wanted, well, remember they wanted it for their own military purposes.
No, no,
They
I
were
know why they wanted it. I just don't know how they were going to use it.
uh I have no
They might just not know how it
well, I
works.
mean, remember they have Zeke as
Yeah.
a someone royal blood, so I'd imagine that they would get the person who get has, so they would have gotten Eren, I guess, and they would have just fed him to Zeke, and I'd imagine they would just, because Zeke is part of their military, they would just order him around to use the founding titan.
Something I
That's
do
a
wonder is if the vow renouncing war applies to royals outside of Verity. So, like,
uh
if Ymir had have gotten the founding titan,
you mean the freckled Ymir,
yeah,
the founder.
because they mentioned
Well,
she was part of the
Ymir,
family.
from my understanding, Ymir doesn't have. Does she have royal blood?
Yeah, I think they specifically say that.
Okay, well, if she does, then I that's definitely a detail I forgot. It, and whether or not Eldians from the outside world would be affected by the vow, I'm not sure on that. Actually, I don't even know.
Like, if
not even going to try to
If
guess on
Zeke
that.
had have gotten it, would he have been able to use it, or would the pacifist vow have gone to him as well?
I want to say yes, but I'm not sure. But I do like how I mean it's just very easy principle. If you're not going to defend yourself, you're just leaving yourself open, which is what happened. Marley took advantage of the pacifism, which then led to the events of the entire series, basically. So, one thing that's very clear about Attack on Titan is that pacifism or just reconciling is not enough because we're human, and while yes, there's a desire for peace and cooperation, there's also a desire for conflict. There's a I mean, I know you're a Christian, so I know you believe that we all have fallen nature, and so because of this, you know, no amount of reconciliation, no, there can never really be an eternal peace, right? So,
Okay,
which I know that bothered some people, I guess, in the especially in the ending, because you know a lot of people were bothered by the fact that paradise gets nuked. However, I mean, out of all the things that happen in the ending, I think that is most in line with what Attack on Titan is. The fact that Paradise gets nuked, you know,
that the struggle is never over.
like yeah, the struggle's never ending. Like the struggle does not end ever, unless we cease to be human, right? Because the way Attack on Titan portrays human nature is that this is how we are as humans, and so you know, unless we cease to be human, the struggle will not end. So unless there's like a transhuman future or something,
Or
maybe.
humanity just gets completely wiped out at the next rumbling.
Right. So um that is one criticism. That's one criticism I will disagree with, which is the nuking of paradise. I don't know. I don't know. I just think it fits with everything else in the series. Honestly, um, yeah. I,
Okay. Well, I think that's about all I wanted to say about Attack on Titan. So I think I'm going to end it here if that's okay with you.
of course.